Good evening. Today I am going to show you this old, beaten up journal of mine. It has this magnetic flap that unfortunately tore because I packed it too full. So as you can see, I have added quite a bit of stuff to this journal, and the binding couldn't hold it. So what I should do is cut out the extra pages, the excess, and see if that will help, and then maybe I can fix this binding. But for now, it'll remain like this. So this book was my journal for when I lived in China. I also had a blog at the time, so most of my writing journaling went into the blog, which is still up. And this was more of a place to put souvenirs. I made lists. I put up I pasted in some pictures. So what I would do when I got back from traveling was I'd get my paste, my glue, and I would take all my ticket stubs, things like that, like train tickets and plane tickets and all the entry tickets that I got from various touristy things, and I would paste them into here. This book was a gift from my family. This was actually the sweetest going away party that I want to say I've ever been to. I'm not sure I've been to many going away parties, but my family threw one for me, which surprised me. And my cousin bought this book, and she had everyone who was at the party, who was there for that, write a page in it, sort of wishing me well, wishing me luck, saying nice things, which was really, really sweet. And then the rest of the book was for me to fill out. Now those are all personal and have names and things attached, so I'm not going to show those to you. But if you ever have someone doing a gap year, or what I was doing, it was post-graduation. I lived in China for 2 years. This idea I found really, really touching. I felt so loved at this party, and when they gave me this book, and I brought it with me, and it was just really important. So the other thing I did, I have many photographs in here, and I went through, and you can see these Post-its. I went through and I covered people's faces because this is my channel, and I didn't ask them to show their faces, so I feel weird about that, so I covered up a lot of faces. I think I left the faces of my students. I think I have a few pictures of the students I was teaching because one, they were adults, so I didn't teach children, and two, a lot of them, most of them, took pictures of me without my permission and posted them on Chinese social media. So this isn't revenge. It's more just, I don't know that they would care that I had their picture, and it just kind of seems like fair game based on cultural attitudes regarding social media. That's how I'm gonna think about that. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this open to skip all the personal messages. Let's see. And the first page is actually my address in China and phone numbers, so I'm gonna skip that one too. Although I'm sure they've all changed by now. Okay, so so here, like, I covered up everyone's faces except for me. So this was me, I think about 6 months before I left for China. And then this was me at the very beginning. So once I arrived in Beijing, I had to get a passport photo taken. I think it was for my school ID. But I know when living abroad, or at least living in Asia, it was super useful just to have like a bunch of passport photos because some visas require it, and when you're traveling around, it's just like, here you go, this is me. So this was me back then. It looks like there was something between my teeth, but I think that was dust. This necklace was a going away present from my aunt, I remember. So I wore that for a while. Okay, so here are these tickets I was talking about. This is a really nice thing that was done in China where they all have like these big tickets to all the places. Many of them also served as postcards, so if you could flip them over, it was a postcard to show where you'd been. I thought that was so cute. Like, it was just such a nice tourist idea. So this was in the summer when I still lived in Beijing, and these were different places. The Capitol Museum. I guess my ticket was free. That's nice. This one wasn't. It was 35 yuan. And then I wrote down all the places that I went, the different touristy places in Beijing. So Tiananmen, of course, the square that's right by the Forbidden City. The Summer Palace, I think, was my favorite kind of touristy place. It's really like a big garden for the most part. The Capitol Museum, Hohai, Tiantan. I went to other places. It's kind of interesting to see what I considered to be like something worth writing down. I also apparently saw a movie. I think I saw Harry Potter in China. I think. Does it say? Yeah, this is Harry Potter. Oh yeah, and I put in, I think I covered all the like identifying information. Oh man, hopefully. But so these were like tickets. This is a boat ticket from Hong Kong to Macau. A flight from Hong Kong to Jakarta. This is a train ticket from Pyeongtaek to Yongsan. Tokyo from Beijing. Seoul to Pyeongtaek. San Francisco to Hong Kong. Seoul to Harbin. This flight made me really mad. I had a bad time on this flight. But I wrote down all of the countries I went to while I was doing this, so and then I gave up on doing the Chinese for them. I think because once I got past like Hong Kong and Macau, like I don't know how to write in these other languages. I guess I could have done Japan. But so yeah, China was where I was living. This is interesting. I didn't go to Taiwan while I lived in China. It was somewhere I'd been to before. Not sure why I included it. Hong Kong. I went to... Hong Kong was one of my favorites, to be honest. So when I first went to Beijing, I had a student visa because I was doing a language program that was covered by the fellowship that I had. And to change your visa in China, you had to leave the country. So I flew to Hong Kong, which is, yes, it's China, but no, it's not China. It's a political conversation that's beyond the scope of this video. But it was a place where I could change my passport, or my visa. So I stayed in Hong Kong for like 3 or 4 days with a friend, and we had such a good time together. I just remember being so happy in Hong Kong. And then changing my visa was actually difficult. The woman at the office got snippy with us, and at first she wouldn't do it. She said that our new address was fake because we didn't have a normal street address. It wasn't like a number, like, 52, Taigu Lane. We just had like the office at this school, because the school itself was on its own campus and it didn't have like roads. If you've been on university campuses, sometimes the buildings are just in the middle of an area. There's no road with a street name. So she basically said that our address was fake, which it wasn't, and got mad at us, and we were freaking out, trying to figure out what to do. And then we just got in line again and got a different person, and she gave us the visa. So before you start crying in a visa office, always just get in line again and see what happens. And then on that same trip to Hong Kong, we took a boat to Macau, which is another island. And this was tricky because we all spoke English and Mandarin. None of us spoke Cantonese, which is what they speak in Macau, or Portuguese, which is the other language they speak in Macau because it was colonized by Portugal. I spoke some Spanish. I think one friend maybe spoke some French, but none of us spoke Portuguese. And it was like, oh, we have all these languages between us and none of them are useful. So we got a little bit lost in Macau. I would love to go back though. It was a really interesting island. I guess people go there for gambling, which is not what we were doing. We were just sightseeing. My first winter, I went to Nepal, which was a place I had been wanting to see for a lot of my life. And it was gorgeous. Then I guess it would have been the next summer, I went to Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. Did I go to Cambodia? No, I went to Cambodia on a different trip. I went to Indonesia on a different trip, and Cambodia was the same trip where I went to Italy, so that was kind of a weird one. And then I went to Korea, and lastly I went to Japan. And then, so I did all the different places I went to in China, and I did it by city. So of course I started in Beijing, I went to Xi'an, so Inner Mongolia is not a city, it's a province, but I'm not sure, we didn't really go to a city, we went to like a tourist area. So Daegu, Pingyao, Datong, Wutaishan, Nanjing, Shanghai, Suzhou, Kunming, Lijiang, Lugu Lake, Luguhu, Guangzhou, Taiyuan, Xinzhou, Luoyang, and Qingdao. So I went all over China. See, these places are all in the north. Nanjing is sort of like middle, and Shanghai and Suzhou are more like the middle, and they're on the southern side. Kunming is in the south, and Lijiang, Lugu Lake. I didn't spend much time in Guangzhou. Taiwan is in north, so yeah, these are mostly northern cities. I had a brief layover in Harbin too. So I guess this one didn't have a place to go from Xining. But yeah, lots of plane, train tickets, another boat ticket. I don't know what this is. This is a train ticket. So this was my summer program. They always did this. They would make make us all stand here and take a picture of everyone who participated. So this was sort of the group picture. I'm back here. As a tall person, I always get thrown in the back. so here I actually wrote something. I'll read it for you. This is a train ticket from Taiyuan to Taegu. So this is like, I think it took about an hour for that train ride. It was a local train. And it cost 550 yuan, which is nothing. That's less than $1 in American money. The scariest train ride of my life. I was crammed on all sides and lost the ability to control where my body went. At any given moment, I was touching 5 different people, and yet people still attempted to get through, pushing others out of their way, that there was nowhere to push them to. The journey took a little more than an hour. Trains are unavoidable in China, but I will attempt to use other modes of transportation as often as possible in the future. So, I did end up taking the bus pretty frequently from Taegu to Taiyuan. It was a bit more comfortable. The reason this is cheap is because, I guess it says it's a hard seat. I was going to say I must have gotten a standing ticket, but now here it says no. Well, you can get like a hard seat, a soft seat, a hard bed, a soft bed, or like a standing ticket. And I never took a train this crowded again. I don't know what it was about this day at this time, but I was smashed against other people. It was a lot, and it was stressful. Okay. This was the Hong Kong trip. So, tickets. I went to the Hong Kong Museum of History. There's my plane ticket. This was the hostel that I stayed at. So in the first week of October in China is called National Holiday, and we got the week off. So my first year I decided with my friends to travel through the province where we were living. So that was the Shanxi province, and that's where most of our students were from. So we went to Datong, which is where you find the Yunggong Grottos and Heshang Mountain, the Nine Dragon Wall, and then this was Wutaishan, I think, yeah, Wutaishan, which is, I'll be honest, I didn't see much of Wutaishan because I got super sick. So I know my friends went hiking, but I saw none of this. I did see the Yunggong Grottos, which were really cool. So these are Buddhist grottos where they, made these holes in the mountain, these little rooms, and then carved big Buddhas and little Buddhas and just carved into them. During the Cultural Revolution, a lot of the grottos across China were destroyed, and the Yunggong Grottos, being where they are, actually survived pretty well, basically because Datong was not a major city. It wasn't anywhere super important to the communists. The north, I think, got hit with communism harder than the south, right? But the Yunggong Grottos actually survived really well. Because I did go to others. There were some grottos outside of Loyang, I think it was, and those were in a lot worse shape. There'd been a lot more desecration and destruction. So there were a lot of them, and they were in good condition. It was very cool. They spelled mountain wrong. Okay. So, I lived in Taegu, so this is Taegu life. And early in the year, in the school year, they had these pop stars. I don't know if they were stars. Honestly, I don't know who they were, but they were invited to campus, and they had this huge setup, this huge arena, and we were invited to go. So we went. Okay, and now we're skipping to Nepal. So we started in Kathmandu, and again they have these just beautiful tickets. I don't know, maybe American attractions also have great tickets and I just never go, but I loved keeping all of these. So Bodhanath is a World Heritage Site. Bhaktapur was really beautiful. So they just have these really fun tickets and brochures and things, and I cut out the stuff that I saw and pasted them in. So this is still in Kathmandu. There is so much to see. It is such a beautiful city that's just full of beautiful things. It's also a city where the maps change every year and none of the roads are on a grid. Getting around was very confusing. Okay, so then I made another list for myself. Places I've been: Nepal, Kathmandu Valley, Swayambhunath, Pashupatinath, Bodhanath, Bhaktapur, Patan, and then I went to Pokhara, which someone kind of made fun of me for like posting a picture of Pokhara because it is a tourist destination and it knows it. And I always have mixed feelings about this because tourist destinations tend to try to make themselves pretty in a way that tourists like. But if I'm a tourist and I like it, you know, where's the shame in that? I know sometimes people get weird about like the Disneyfication of things, but Pokhara didn't feel like that. I mean, clearly it had restaurants that catered to foreigners, etc. But Pokhara was beautiful. And we went hiking. So we went to Fiwatal, Devi's Falls, Sarankat, Mahendra Cave, Chamara, I spelled this wrong, the Bat Cave, and we saw lots of bats. And then Chitwan National Park, which I think I dedicated a page to. So Pokhara, we went to these very cool caves. And yeah, we went hiking. Here we go. Chitwan National Park is, you know, a park for animals. So we stayed. The place we stayed was actually pretty nice compared to the hostel we had in Kathmandu. For one thing, there was hot water, which we did not find for the rest of the trip. But we went through this preserve and saw animals, which was very, very cool. So I listed everything I saw, including macaques, monkeys, white rhino, which was very cool. Here's a picture. A swamp deer, a spotted deer, cattle egret, myna bird, white-throated kingfisher, an intermediate egret, cormorants, blue-eared kingfisher, stork-billed kingfisher, a peacock, and a marsh mugger. This was also where I discovered that peacocks can fly. I did not know that about them. I think I'd seen them before in, like, you know, aviaries or whatever, but just seeing one take off and fly with its big tail behind it, it never occurred to me I would be able to fly under the weight of its tail. But this was a very, very cool trip. We took a canoe down a little creek, and clearly what I mostly saw were birds, but we also rode in this Jeep. They had this Jeep that I'm pretty sure was from World War II, and riding it, I think, must have been the same as riding a camel. It was like this loping pace. It was one of the weirder experiences I've had in a motorized vehicle. Okay, and then next is Hanoi, which is Vietnam. So here I saw a water puppet show. I don't remember what this is. Oh, this is also the water puppet show, so both of the hostel I stayed at, which was fine. Oh, I wrote that. This was the best hostel I stayed in during my trip. So I guess that's where I was happiest. I went to the Ho Chi Minh's presidential palace. This was funny. I was alone during this part of my trip, and I remember getting like next to a group of what I think were Dutch tourists, and they were all white-skinned like I am and tall like I am, and it was the first time in months and months I had been around other tall people, and it was just kind of nice to blend into this side of their group and be around other tall people, because it made me think of home, even though I didn't speak their language and didn't know what they were talking about. So I went to the Ho Chi Minh Museum. I'm trying to think. I think this was one of the better museums I went to. I think it was like 2 floors were kind of boring, and the 3rd floor was really remarkable. I think it was this one. This was all a while ago now. And then some pictures of, I think it's part of this brochure, the presidential palace area. Okay, so this happened in Vietnam. And I will say, during this time, this was in the winter, this was in January, and I was traveling, and one reason I was outside of China was because it was Spring Festival, which we often call Chinese New Year in America, but it's more appropriately called Spring Festival. Well, I, being the silly, foolish person that I am, didn't look to see what other countries celebrate Spring Festival, because Vietnam also celebrates Spring Festival. They call it Tet. So while I was in Vietnam, they were celebrating Tet, which matters because they close all the stores, everyone goes home and, has a big dinner and celebrates and throws off firecrackers. And it's not a good time for foreigners to be traveling. But at this point, I was in this little hotel that I didn't really want to be in. And I was invited by one of the workers there to a party, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, thinking I was just gonna go to bed. I did not want to go to this party. I just wanted to sleep. But the party was kind of mandatory, so here's what I wrote. I received this red envelope at a strange mandatory party at the hotel I was staying at in Vietnam. The hotel workers knocked on my door and basically told me I had to go to this party. I was joined by 3 Australian girls in their pajamas, the hotel workers who weren't allowed to go home for the holiday, and the owner of the hotel. I showed up first to an empty, large, decorated room ready for a party of many more people. The owner spoke next to no English, and he relied on the workers to translate his pleasure at having foreign guests celebrate the New Year with them. He pushed little snacks on us, which we accepted for the sake of politeness, and at his bidding we were poured red champagne. It was deeply awkward and similar to the Chinese banquets I was traveling to escape from. Each of the guests was presented with a red envelope containing 20,000 dong, approximately $1 USD. It was worth it when I saw how happy the hotel workers were to drink a little champagne, eat some snacks, and enjoy some company during a holiday away from home. Around midnight, the boss left, and we all went upstairs to watch the sky light up with fireworks in every direction. So yeah, I realized, midway through, that as much as I didn't want to be there, the, sort of young women who were working at this hotel were stuck there, and as long as we drank a little champagne, they got to drink a little champagne, and if we ate the snacks, they got to eat the snacks. So it was just me and 3 Australian girls who did not speak to me. I remember also the big boss asked me, where are you from? And at this point, I'd gotten out of the habit of saying America because Canadians and people from Central and South America tend to get a little miffed if you say America because, well, they're from America too. And they're not wrong. But so I said, USA. And he didn't understand this. He was like, you say. And I was like, no, I'm from the USA. And he did not understand. I'm certain he would have understood if I said America, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, this was the envelope he gave me. Okay, this is Laos. And this is me. I had a terrible haircut at this time. And this pool. This picture, my skin is so white that the coloring of this picture is a little off, but this water really was like super turquoise. It was a very cool color. Oh yeah, we saw these caves. So we were on a boat and we sort of just went past, and then we went inside this one. Here's an extra stamp, because I did buy a lot of postcards and send them from the countries I was in, so I had extra stamps. Laos was very, very cool. After being in China, which is like so crowded all the time, Laos only has a population of about 6 million people, so it was just like relaxed. It was just an easier place to be. And here is Thailand. So we went to this temple. You see the temple rules. Dress politely, do not wear shorts. I ended up in Nepal. I bought this long skirt. It went down to my ankles and had a stretchy waist, and I would just carry it in my bag and throw it on over my shorts so I could go into temples and be respectful. I thought the skirt was really pretty. It was black and had this really beautiful pattern, and it had this little like waist tie that had 2 little bells on it. But I found it really useful just for, it was so hot in many of these countries, and I know that ideas about modesty can be really different, but I don't know, I get hot easily, so I needed to be wearing shorts. But I would throw the skirt on over. I would also keep a scarf that I could toss around my neck and hide my shoulders too. Okay, take off your shoes. Yeah, in Thailand, I know it's really impolite to point your feet at someone or to like walk over someone or walk over a Buddha. Is super rude. There was, I don't remember how it worked now, but there was this way of getting little prophecies at the temple, and so this was mine. The powerful goodness which you had cultivated in the previous life will enable you to be happy, and prosperity will attend you forever and ever. Your life will be successful and full of resources. And then we went to this peak mountain. I also did this. This was real touristy, but it was super fun. It's called Flight of the Gibbon, and it's ziplining through the forest. We actually did see a gibbon. Apparently that's pretty rare. The guys who were in charge were surprised by this, but ziplining was super fun. Okay, so this was in Thailand. I went to the elephant nature park. So elephants are like super abused by people for a lot of reasons, and so this was a reserve where they had rescued many elephants from the logging industry, among other things. So this was a rescue park where the elephants just got to chill. And here's a picture of me feeding an elephant a banana, because they would do just about anything for a banana. And then, okay, so this was back in Hong Kong with my friend whose face I've covered up. And I think we were eating froyo. Here is a picture of where I lived in China. So this was taken in December. You can see all the snow. You can see, like I said, I didn't live on a road. These were just paths. This was my room right here. This is my roommate's room. This is our living room. And yeah, it was this really cute home. The insulation was terrible. We were always cold. We had space heaters that we turned on in October and like didn't turn off until April. This is more Taigu stuff. So we had like a New Year's party. This is the drum tower in Taigu. This is just, I don't remember where this picture came from. It might have had something to do with campus. Then this was like an old mansion we took a tour of. So the town we lived in was small. It wasn't any kind of tourist destination, but it still had a lot of old, like antiquities, old things. So like, you know, mansions to tour. A lot of Chinese cities have drum towers that are kept up. There was also a pagoda. What is this thing called? Like a shrine that was over 1,000 years old. So I guess I don't have a ticket from that one. And there was like the town walls, which were half crumbled. So there was like old Taigu where we spent time and sometimes bought donuts from there. I didn't go very often. I didn't have many reasons, but it was scenic. At one point when I was living in China, I would just wander into town and take pictures of stuff and just wander and wander and wander during my afternoons. I think this video has already gotten pretty long. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Leave it sort of the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. Okay, good night. I would like to give a very, very special thank you to my patron, the Grouchow. You can support me on Patreon now too, and get a couple little behind the scenes videos and downloads of the audio files for my true crime series. Okay,